Good evening, friends. Tonight, I want to speak to you about something that will stretch the limits of your imagination. I want to talk to you about the desires you've held close to your heart, the dreams you've whispered in solitude, and the goals you've quietly abandoned because the world told you they were impossible. Tell me, what is it that you've dismissed as beyond reach? What vision have you buried because someone said it was unrealistic? What love have you surrendered because it seemed unattainable? What health, what wealth, what freedom have you silently mourned because circumstance appeared insurmountable? Hold that desire in your mind as you listen tonight, because I'm here to show you something profound. Nothing is truly impossible. Not your healing. Not your breakthrough. Not the life you have longed for in quiet moments. The word impossible is nothing more than a shadow cast by the mind of limitation, a boundary created not by reality, but by belief. For most people, the impossible is a cage. But for those who understand the nature of consciousness, the impossible is only a stepping stone, a signal of what has not yet been fully imagined. Tonight, I want you to question everything you've assumed about what can and cannot be. Tonight, I want you to feel the stirrings of possibility within yourself, to recognize that the desires you've labeled impossible are already seated within your reality, waiting for you to awaken to them. As you listen, I ask you to do one thing: allow yourself to imagine that what you think cannot be done, can. And not just can, but must. For when you begin to see through the eyes of consciousness, you will realize that impossibility is only an illusion, a story waiting to be rewritten by your own mind. Now, before we dive deeper, I want you to understand a fundamental truth, one that changes everything about how you experience life. The reality you live in is not dictated by circumstance, chance, or the world around you. It is created, moment by moment, by the consciousness that you inhabit. Every event, every encounter, every success or struggle is first born in your mind, in the field of your imagination, before it ever appears in your outer world. Think about that for a moment. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you call reality has its roots in consciousness. The streets you walk, the houses you enter, the people you meet, all of it first existed as an idea, as a thought, as a possibility in the mind of someone. And if the world can be created in this way, why should your life be any different? Why should your desires, no matter how bold or audacious, remain locked in the realm of impossibility? The word impossible is a construct of the human mind. It is not a law of nature, it is not a decree of the universe. It is a limitation we accept, often unconsciously, because we have been taught to see boundaries where none exist. The impossible is only impossible because we have agreed it is. And when we change our consciousness, when we shift our focus, when we assume the reality we desire with unwavering certainty, what once seemed impossible begins to bend, to yield, to manifest. This is not wishful thinking. This is not hoping or waiting. This is the precise law of creation that operates in every moment, whether you recognize it or not. The same consciousness that allows a seed to become a tree, the same awareness that brings ideas into form, is the consciousness within you. It is not separate. It is not distant. It is yours to wield. And so tonight, I want you to begin seeing yourself not as a passive observer of reality, but as the active creator of it. I want you to feel the stirrings of power within you, the power to manifest what you've long labeled impossible. The stories I am about to share are not miracles in the conventional sense. They are demonstrations of a consciousness fully aligned with its desire, persistently imagining, assuming, and living in the reality of what was once thought unreachable. Prepare yourself, because what you are about to witness is not fantasy. It is the inevitable result of understanding the creative power of your own mind. Let me tell you a story that illustrates this principle in a way you cannot ignore. A woman came to me, her body trembling, tears running down her face. She had been diagnosed with a condition the doctors said was irreversible, her body was failing, and each day brought more pain, more limitation. She had tried every treatment, every therapy, every recommendation, and yet her health continued to decline. According to every medical expert, there was no hope. She came to me asking, "Is there anything left for me?" I looked at her and said something she could barely hear through her despair. The first reality you must accept is that you are whole. That your body, right now, is capable of health. That what you imagine as impossible is waiting for you to believe it. At first, she recoiled. Her mind, conditioned by years of limitation, could not comprehend such words. "But I'm sick," she whispered. "I feel it every day. I can't ignore my body." And I told her, "You are not your body. Your body is a reflection of your consciousness. If you persist in seeing yourself as healthy, if you imagine the sensations of vitality, if you feel the energy flowing through every fiber of your being, your body has no choice but to respond. Do not hope to be well. Live as though you are already whole." Every night, she followed this practice. She lay in her bed and felt the warmth of health spreading through her muscles. She imagined herself walking without pain, laughing with joy, rising in the morning with energy she had long forgotten. She smelled the crisp morning air on her walk, felt the sun on her skin, heard the birds as they celebrated a world she had once believed she would never experience again. She did not wish for this reality, she inhabited it. Weeks passed. Then months. At first, the change was subtle, a small sensation of ease here, a flicker of strength there. Her family grew anxious, believing she was clinging to fantasy. But she persisted. The more she lived in the reality of her wholeness, the more her body responded. 6 months later, she walked into my office, radiant, tears of joy streaming down her face. The doctors could not explain it. They called it a miracle. She knew the truth, it was no miracle. It was the inevitable manifestation of a consciousness fully aligned with its desire. What seemed impossible, the restoration of health, the reversal of decline, had already been completed in her mind. And because she assumed it, persisted in it, and felt it as real, her body followed. She became living proof that consciousness creates reality, that the impossible bends before the certainty of belief, and that what we imagine with every fiber of our being must, inevitably, manifest. Now that you've seen what is possible when consciousness is fully aligned with desire, it's time to understand exactly how to embody this state for yourself. Manifesting the impossible is not about forcing outcomes or trying harder in the external world. It is about becoming the person who naturally inhabits the reality of your fulfilled desire. It is about living from a consciousness in which impossibility no longer exists. The first principle is assumption. To assume is to accept as true that which has not yet appeared in the physical world. It is not hoping or wishing, it is knowing, with every fiber of your being, that your desire is already real. Close your eyes and feel it. Imagine the scene you long to live. Hear the sounds, feel the textures, smell the scents, sense the emotions that accompany this reality. Make it so vivid that it becomes more compelling than what your 5 senses currently perceive. The second principle is persistence. Assumption is not a one-time act. It must be practiced consistently, every day, every night, until your consciousness has fully integrated it. Every night before sleep, allow yourself to live in your desired reality. Do not think about your current circumstances. Do not remind yourself of limitation. Instead, feel the joy, the freedom, the wholeness, or the love as though it is already yours. Persist until the old consciousness, the one that sees impossibility, becomes foreign, and the new consciousness, the one that knows fulfillment, becomes your natural state. The third principle is imaginal acts. These are deliberate, sensory-rich experiences created in the imagination. See yourself walking, speaking, creating, receiving, healing, experience it in such detail that your mind cannot distinguish it from physical reality. Engage all your senses. Hear the laughter, feel the touch, smell the air, taste the sweetness of success. Make the imagined more real than the present. Here is the contrast to notice. Thinking from limitation keeps you bound. You focus on what is missing, what cannot be done, what is impossible. Thinking from fulfillment liberates you. You inhabit the state of your desire now. You act, speak, and feel as though the impossible has already been accomplished. This is the consciousness that shapes reality. This is the state from which miracles emerge. By consistently assuming, persistently imagining, and fully living as though your desire is already fulfilled, you begin to align every aspect of your being with the reality you seek. And when consciousness aligns, the impossible is no longer a question, it is inevitable. Let me share another story, one that will open your eyes to the power of assuming the impossible in the realm of career and life. A young man came to me, working as a janitor in a small office building. He was intelligent, creative, and full of potential, yet every day he swept floors and emptied trash bins while his dreams whispered quietly in the corners of his mind. He wanted to become a successful film director, to tell stories that moved the world, but according to every voice around him, this was impossible. You don't have connections, they said. You don't have money. You don't have experience. Be realistic. At first, he listened. Doubt and discouragement weighed heavily on him. He could feel the limitations pressing in, the financial strain, the lack of formal education, the sheer improbability of success. Yet something within him stirred. He realized that external circumstances only have the power you give them. What mattered most was the consciousness he inhabited. Every day, even while cleaning offices, he began to imagine himself living the reality of his fulfilled desire. He didn't just dream, he lived it. He saw himself on film sets, giving directions to actors, making creative decisions, feeling the thrill of completing a scene, hearing applause from audiences, and watching his name appear in the credits. He felt the satisfaction of his work, the pride, the joy, and the excitement as if it were happening right now. At first, the world seemed indifferent. Opportunities were scarce, connections were distant, resources seemed out of reach. But he persisted. Each night before sleep, he rehearsed the scenes in his mind. He felt the emotions, touched the textures, smelled the air of the locations he would shoot. He assumed the reality fully, with no trace of doubt. Slowly, he began to notice doors opening. People appeared who could guide him. Unexpected funding came through. Mentors, collaborators, and opportunities aligned with his unwavering assumption. 3 years of persistent living in the consciousness of fulfillment later, he had written, produced, and directed his first independent film. It won awards at several festivals, and his work began to attract attention from the industry. What had once seemed impossible, the leap from janitor to award-winning director, had become inevitable. The lesson is clear: external obstacles and doubt are powerless against the mind that assumes its desire, persists in it, and inhabits it fully. Reality bends to the consciousness that refuses limitation. The impossible, once imagined and lived in fully, becomes simply another story of inevitability, waiting to be told. I want to share a story that touches the heart in ways logic cannot explain. A woman came to me, heavy with grief and regret. She had been estranged from her daughter for 15 years. Their last conversation had ended in anger, harsh words that neither could take back. All attempts at reconciliation had failed. The daughter had moved across the country, refused all contact, and according to every reasonable standard, their relationship was irreparable. It's impossible, everyone told her, you must accept it and move on. And yet, she could not. She felt the ache of separation in every waking moment, the silent absence pressing into her chest like a weight she could not release. She asked me, "Is there any hope for us?" I told her, hope is not enough. You must imagine, fully and completely, that your relationship is already restored. You must live in that reality, feel it, breathe it, and make it more vivid than the absence you see around you. Do not cling to what has been. Step fully into the reality you desire. She began to practice this every day. She imagined conversations with her daughter, felt the warmth of their connection, heard the laughter they would share, sensed the gentle touch of an embrace she longed for. She spoke to her daughter in her imagination with love, forgiveness, and compassion, feeling each word as real as if it were happening in the present moment. Slowly, she began to embody the consciousness of reconciliation. For months, nothing changed externally. The phone did not ring. The distance remained. Yet internally, she transformed. The anger and fear that had once defined her relationship dissolved. She became the person for whom a loving, connected relationship with her daughter was natural, normal, and inevitable. Then, one morning, unexpectedly, the phone rang. On the other end was her daughter's voice, trembling but full of emotion. "Mom, I've been thinking about you constantly. I miss you. Can we talk?" Tears streamed down their faces as they spoke, forgiveness flowing effortlessly. What had seemed impossible, rebuilding a bond broken for 15 years, had manifested completely. The lesson is profound. When you inhabit the reality of your desire, when you persist in assumption and live as if, even the deepest wounds, the longest separations, the most impossible relationships are drawn back into alignment. Consciousness, fully assumed and persistently maintained, creates reality. The impossible bends to the certainty of the heart. Now, let us examine why so many people struggle to manifest the impossible. The truth is not a lack of desire or even a lack of dreaming. Most people fail because they hold on to the very consciousness that makes their desire seem impossible. They affirm their goal, yet their thoughts, emotions, and beliefs remain tethered to limitation. They want freedom while feeling trapped. They want wealth while feeling scarcity. They want love while believing themselves unworthy. You cannot inhabit two realities at once. The consciousness you hold shapes the world you experience. Another reason for failure is impatience. Transformation requires persistence. The shift from limitation to fulfillment is not instantaneous. It is a gradual rebirth, a complete alignment of mind, heart, and imagination with the reality you seek. Many abandon the practice too soon, thinking that because the outer world has not yet changed, their assumption is ineffective. Nothing could be further from the truth. Reality always responds, but it does so in its own time, often orchestrating events in ways beyond your immediate comprehension. Courage is essential. To assume the impossible is to stand alone in a world that constantly reminds you of limitation. Friends, family, colleagues, everywhere you look, voices will echo the facts of impossibility. To persist, you must embrace audacity. You must assume boldly, even when it frightens you. You must persist in your assumption until it becomes more compelling than the evidence of your senses, until it is the very fabric of your being. Remember, manifestation is not about forcing outcomes. It is not about manipulating circumstances or striving harder. It is about alignment, bringing your consciousness into harmony with the reality you desire. When your thoughts, emotions, and imaginal acts are consistent with fulfillment, the world naturally bends to reflect it. The impossible becomes inevitable, not because of struggle, but because of perfect alignment between the inner world and the outer. So tonight, consider this: the failures you have experienced are not proof of impossibility. They are signals that your consciousness has yet to fully embrace the reality you desire. To succeed, you must let go of old beliefs, persist with unwavering assumption, and step into the audacious, courageous consciousness of fulfillment. Only then will the impossible cease to exist, and your desires will manifest with certainty. Now, I want you to turn your attention inward, to the desires you have labeled impossible. The ones you've whispered in secret, the dreams you've convinced yourself are too far out of reach. I want you to ask yourself, what would my life look like if I assumed these desires as already fulfilled? What would I feel? How would I move? What would I say if impossibility no longer existed? I challenge you tonight to dare to assume fulfillment. Not someday, not when the circumstances are perfect, but now. Close your eyes and feel it. Live in it. Imagine it so vividly, with every sense engaged, that it becomes more real than the life you currently see. Persist in this assumption with courage. Persist when doubt arises, when others question your sanity, when the world seems intent on proving impossibility. Your persistence is the seed from which inevitability grows. Understand this: you are not powerless. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are the operant power in your world. Every thought, every feeling, every moment of assumption shapes the reality that unfolds before you. The impossible bends to the certainty of consciousness. The reality you long for is not a distant hope, it is already seated in your mind, awaiting your acknowledgement, your commitment, your daring assumption. Tonight, decide which world you will inhabit. Will you continue to live in limitation, hoping for change but remaining bound to the impossible? Or will you boldly choose fulfillment, daring to live as if your desires are already accomplished? Step fully into the consciousness of your fulfilled self. Persist. Assume. Embody. For when you do, what once seemed impossible ceases to exist, and the life you have longed for becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Why? As we come to the close of this talk, remember these truths: consciousness is the creative force behind every experience, every circumstance, every moment of your life. What you assume, persist in, and fully inhabit will manifest. The impossible exists only in the minds that accept limitation. You are not bound by circumstance, by opinion, or by what others call reality. Within you lies the power to transform, to heal, to create, to love, and to achieve that which seems beyond reach. Your persistence, your bold assumption, your unwavering focus, these are the tools of miracles. Tonight, I invite you to step into your own power. Dare to assume what you have long thought impossible. Persist with courage. Embody the consciousness of fulfillment. For when you do, what once seemed unreachable becomes inevitable. The life you desire, the dreams you have whispered in secret, are waiting for you. Claim them.